This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. The Patriots just wrapped up week 2 of training camp, getting closer and closer. I think now 4 or 5 days away from their first preseason game against the Giants at home. It was another interesting week of training camp practice. Couple injuries, minor here and there. People out. Judon missed the last 2 practices of the week. Haven't heard much about that, so probably something minor. But the offense is. We'll get more into it in a minute, but going through some ups and downs between the new play callers, the new playbook, the new system. We've had a few different guys talk about that. So it was another interesting week of camp and another step forward and another step close to the season starting. So I'm here with my co-host, Chase Gamble. How's it going, Chase?
Yeah, interesting week this week where you get a little scrimmage type of practice too on Friday for season ticket members only. I know that you were there for that and you wanted to get in, but you couldn't go because you're not a season ticket holder, but you were there on Thursday. So you got to see some good things in person. But yeah, a lot of, good things that are coming out and a lot of things that are a little concerning that are hopefully fixed by regular season game 1 against Miami. And we'll go over all that stuff. But ultimately, I think that you've seen, a couple surprising things also, guys stepping up, maybe a little bit more reports out of the offensive struggles than I would have originally guessed. I would have thought that maybe the defensive side of the ball was struggling a little bit more, but I think with a new scheme on the offensive side that it's just going to take some time and it will work its way out. You're going to see them in a game setting here against the Giants shortly this upcoming week. And, we'll see how all that looks. So I'm excited for that though, but another good week of Patriots training camp and, just getting better. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that's going to be the key is getting into the actual game setting, then seeing how this offense is running. Because right now it's hard to tell. Like we didn't think the cornerback group was going to be very strong this year, but maybe they're overperforming and maybe this is a better group than we thought, or maybe this offense is really just struggling. And that's kind of seems to be what it is the offense is struggling more than the defense is playing well. But that's where you start to find out these things is when you play against other teams, actual competition and these joint practices and then the preseason games. And so we'll get more answers pretty shortly within the next few weeks of camp here against the Giants and then I believe the Panthers and then closing out with Las Vegas at the Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. So it's interesting to see. Obviously, a new system, new scheme, I guess you could say. Belichick hasn't officially said anything like any full quotes on that necessarily, but all the players have alluded to a change in scheme system. It's just different. It's not the same operation that they were running a year ago or the past 20 years, whatever. It's a little bit, some tweaks here and there and some change in philosophy. And that's always going to present some growing pains. And that was something Jacoby Myers touched on the other day after practice, I believe on Friday, is that they're feeling some of these growing pains. And they just got to stick to the process and keep grinding and they'll get it. It's just concerning of, okay, well, camp is usually when you're putting the finishing touches on some of these things, really getting ready for the season to start. And they're kind of all learning a lot of things right now. And it doesn't seem like anything's meshed together quite yet. It seemed like Wednesday they were in shells and they were kind of going more of a slow walk-through pace, trying to fix some of the mistakes they've made the past couple weeks. And then Thursday, they looked a little bit better. That was one of their more improved days. They still had their struggles here and there, but Mac looked a little bit better. The run game is still kind of struggling a little bit. It doesn't seem like it's on the running back. Seems like the O-line struggling a little bit, which is always a concern. Mac they've been using a lot of rollout packages with Mac and trying to get him on the move for some of these passes, which is something we didn't see a lot of last year. So that seems to be something that's a change in philosophy for them. Maybe it also has to do with the protection breaking down, or maybe it's the design. I'm not really quite sure, but the O-line has had its struggles here and there. I think a few days ago, they let up like 8 sacks, you could say, and then it dropped to like 4 on Thursday, I believe. So it was a little better, but it's still, they're having some issues here and there. Mike Onwenu, I believe, was switching out with James Ferentz on Friday's practice as being a starter. So they've been rotating guys at right guard, seeing who fits best. But it's a whole new operation. A lot of change on the O line. Isaiah Wayne goes from left tackle to right tackle. Trent Brown from right tackle to left tackle. Mike Onwenu back in the starting lineup, as we can see right now. So Cole Strange, a rookie at left guard. It's just there's a lot of things changing on this team. New scheme, new players added. Devontae Parker, you're trying to get some of these guys from last season more comfortable, and now you're changing a whole new system. So there's a lot of change going on. It's just going to take some time. I'm not concerned yet, but I definitely am keeping my eye on the offense.
Yeah, I was a little surprised when I was reading that James Ferentz and Michael Winner were splitting reps as much as they were. And then I went and looked at PFF, stuff like that. Michael Winner's coming from a gap scheme team in Michigan, too. Like, they were probably about 50-50 his career. And so he had all of his success his rookie year playing in a gap scheme team. He's not the most athletic guy, more of a squatty body dude that, has power and, can get under guys and lift them and move them from that position. So I think that's interesting. I do ultimately think that he'll win that position unless James Ferentz is just like the answer and he's the next Joe Tooney or something, which I don't think that that's possible and that's likely. But I think that you just got to work this out for Michael Winnu and get him back ready and then get Cole Strange caught up to the NFL speed. There's been good things said about him, but you're a rookie coming into the NFL and you're playing a super hard position in a new offense, new play caller and stuff. And so you really don't, you're looking at David Andrews, who's the leader. And I'm still sure still thinking that he's going to be the leader of that offensive line, but you're looking at him and he's like, dude, like I've really been in this as much as you have too. This is a kind of new for me too. So we're kind of learning it together. Yeah. I've had experience in the NFL, but scheme wise, we're learning this together. So I think that will get itself worked out. But when you look at the Patriots offense last year, the strength of this offense was definitely the run game and the offensive line. And that's so much of the concerns that we had coming in here. A second-year quarterback in Mac Jones, who most Patriots fans are looking at to take a big year two leap, similar to what Joe Burrow took. And you're taking away a top 5 guard in the league in Shaq Mason. And then you're drafting a rookie there. And you also left who played really good for us was Ted
Karras.
Ted Karras. Gosh, I don't know why that slipped my mind. Ted Karras, who goes signs elsewhere in free agency. So now you're filling up both guard spots, and Owenu is more than capable. Like, I'm not down on Michael Owenu. He will have his opportunity, and he'll play good enough in my mind. But now you're having 2 new guys there, plus the new system, plus Mac Jones trying to make a second-year leap, plus a new pretty much number 1 wide receiver in Devontae Parker. And you got Kendrick Bourne, all these guys. You're pretty much looking for everyone on the offense to take it up a notch from what we were last year. And, you're kind of seeing a little bit of, and hearing out of camp, a little bit of, they're looking stagnant. They're kind of struggling. And that's a little bit concerning. But you know what? This is practice number 8. How many have they had? 8?
Yeah,
8
so
or
far,
something.
I believe. Yep.
So, I mean, there's still a lot of football to be worked on. They're going to play 3 preseason games. They're going to have joint practices. They're going to be able to see how this stuff looks on other teams in other NFL systems, see what it is. So I'm excited to see them go against these other teams because there was a report that there was a scuffle on Friday and stuff. I'm sure they're sick of practicing against each other. I mean, people, when you practice against the same dudes over and over and, your Matt Judon and Trent Brown go against each other probably 20, 30 times a day, and they're both great players. The tensions get heated and stuff. So they're going to get to go against some other NFL caliber players here this week. And that'll be, a big tell for a lot of Patriots fans in my mind.
I think it was Uche and Haran who got in that little scuffle on Friday and they got kicked out of practice. Yeah. Speaking of, this is a little off topic. Did you see Trevor Penning has been kicked out like 3 or 4 straight practices?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That dude is just causing chaos his rookie year. But back to the Pats. I wouldn't say I'm concerned yet, but usually you see the Patriots use even the first month of the season to get kind of warmed up to things. And that's with their normal offense, what they have done kind of every year. So I guess just with a whole new system, I'm a little bit concerned that maybe this process might take a little too long. It might be dipping into a little too far into the season where it's causing some issues. That's my only concern. They still got a month. I think it's like 36 days until their first game. So they still got time. It's still plenty of time. They got 3 preseason games, a full month of practices and all that stuff. Like you said, plenty of joint practices and film to go over and plenty of reps to get. We're just scratching the surface of training camp. So it's the early days, but eventually they've got to get to a point where it's okay. It's no longer early in training camp. We're getting towards the middle of it, towards the end of it. The season starts soon. So I just hope that we continue to see progress each week until we get to that point where it's week 1 and we're like, okay, this offense is firing on all cylinders. The defense is looking solid. That's kind of the point I want to get to. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and getting off to a slow start in the NFL is so hard. New England, we started off 2-4 last year, didn't we? And we had lost multiple home games this year. You go to Miami, which will be a tough game, at Pittsburgh, which is always tough. I mean, I know that they don't have quite the personnel, but at Pittsburgh's always tough. Then Baltimore and Green Bay at home. Like if you're starting 1-3, 2-4 again this year, we saw how much it hurt the Patriots last year towards the end of the year when they came off of their bye week and then they didn't have any momentum and they couldn't do anything the last 3 weeks of the season, then got trounced in the first round of the playoffs. So I think getting off to a fast start this year is so, crucial, especially when you're going against Miami, who's severely increased the talent on their roster. They're favored to go to win or not win the division, but they're favored to finish the division above you, maybe even push the Bills for it. I don't think that they'll beat them, but they can compete with them on paper. And you're starting out with them in Miami, where we've always struggled, obviously later in the year, but you're going to get them week 1 in Miami, divisional opponent. It's going to be a big game to come out week 1. So you want to see in these next 30 days when they're preparing and they're playing the Raiders, the Panthers, the Giants, and then doing joint practices, you want to see these improvements, happening slowly but surely, because you got to start fast week 1 against a divisional opponent. You don't want to start out 0-1 and then, lead that into another game. And now all of a sudden you're putting so much pressure on the back end of your schedule, having to win games to be in contention for a wild card spot.
Yeah, it's tough when you get behind the 8 ball like that early in the season. They had to go on a huge run. And I don't know, that Pittsburgh team early in the season, like offensively, maybe not going to be incredible. They got a couple guys who are certainly interesting pieces on the offense side of the ball, Najee Harris. But the defense, especially for a young offensive line, you got TJ Watt and some of those guys, Cam Hayward up the middle, and then you got their secondary is pretty solid as well. So that's not necessarily a defense you want to face early on as an offense if you're struggling, especially the O-line. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like last year, like we touched on, the run game was so dominant that it helped out the pass game so much. So I understand a change in philosophy to make it easier on the receivers and on Jonnu and all these guys to learn the offense quicker and have success earlier and not have these years where it's Nelson Aguilar uninvolved, Jonnu uninvolved after paying them all this money. So I understand the concept behind it, but at the same time, we just had a Devontae Parker. If Jonnu can get more comfortable in the system we ran last year, we continue with the running game. Mac takes a step forward. I don't see why this offense can't be a top 10 offense. So I don't know. I get the change of philosophy, and at the same time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I thought it worked pretty well last year. If they could just have a weapon on the outside and some of these pieces could take a step forward, then I think they would have been fine. But maybe they needed to change this philosophy for these pieces to take a step forward. So I kind of see both sides of it.
Yeah, and on Mac Jones, I kind of going back when you told me that they were running more rollout style passes. I wonder if that's kind of their philosophy in getting more of the running backs and tight ends into the passing game. Now, you can obviously hit your receivers still, and when you're running play action and stuff off of a successful run game, it's super easy. Now, the one thing that scares me about Mac Jones is if he doesn't have a place to throw the ball, he's not going to be able to tuck it and run successfully like Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. So if you have a run game that is going good, I love the play action rollout passes. But if you can't move the ball and stay ahead of the sticks on first, second down, and that's what you're trying to do on offense, teams are going to be able to sit and be able to defend that a lot easier. So that was a little bit of an interesting thing for me. I think that they're just trying to see what's going to work best, and like I said, when the games happen here in a couple days, we'll see, new things they're trying out, because ultimately these next 3 games that we're going to play in the preseason, they don't count towards the playoffs. So why not try new things? Like I'm all for trying new things. Now, if we're seeing the stuff that's not working happening, and Patricia's calling it week 1 against Miami and then into week 2 against Pittsburgh, and that's just, we got to have an offensive identity. So I think that's kind of what they're looking to figure out, along with the zone scheme runs. They're trying to figure out, okay, well, is it Michael Winnow at guard? Is it Ferentz at guard? Who's going to be more tailored to this system? What do we do if Michael Winnow's in the game? Is he more of the guy that we're going to have pull and run behind him, and then we can occasionally run zone with him? I think they're just trying new things, and that doesn't bug me at all. I mean, this is a young team that has a lot of playmakers on the team. We don't have a top tier playmaker, but we have a lot of guys that can do things if we get them the ball and get creative with them. So try all this creativity that New England wants to during the camps part and the preseason games. That's what this is for. So I have no problem hearing that. And even though that we're hearing that they're struggling, for me, it's like, let them work it out. I'd rather have reports that they're struggling right now than they're just, hitting the ground running, because eventually you can't ride that high for 18 straight weeks in the NFL and then carry it into the playoffs. Like, gradually New England's got to start getting better, especially with a second-year quarterback. I think that's what you're going to start seeing here with them.
I mean, I can't say I would mind if they were firing on all cylinders right now, but
yeah, but would we want to
though.
lose the last 4 games of the season like we did last year?
That's fair. They're running out of steam. Yeah, but I don't know. It feels like Mac Jones, like I'm all for trying new things as well. I just feels like Mac Jones' skill set is built more for last year's offense than this year's offense. But we really don't know what the offense is, so it's too early to tell. We don't know yet. If we're 3 weeks into the season and we're seeing the same stuff, then I'll be like, okay, I'm concerned. This offense doesn't seem like it fits what they're trying to do. But as of right now, it's training camp. We don't have enough information. So there's no real way for us to say, hey, this isn't going to work, or hey, this is going to work. So once I start facing, like we said, more competition, other real teams, we'll start to get a better understanding of the whole picture of what this offense is trying to be. But just, it seemed odd to me seeing a lot of rollout passes and the running game struggling after it was so dominant last year. So that was kind of unusual to me. Caught my eye a little bit, but I'm not too concerned yet. It's just, there's going to be some growing pains, obviously, with anything new.
Yeah. And I'm trying to pull up, what Max, or what they did with him at Alabama, how many times they rolled him out. Now in play, this isn't telling of the rolling out concept, but in play action passes compared to non-play action passes, I just had it and now my computer or my laptop won't load. Oh, that's why. He was he was great in both. So I think that, you're looking at it and saying, yeah, if you're gonna add a little bit more boot action with Mac in it, that's what they're going to do. You're going to be able to find Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, either in the flat. It's going to be easy passes for him, or running a deep over. Maybe you can get James White out once he gets healthy, get the ball to Pierre Strong, because I really do think that with Jonnu Smith and Pierre Strong and Ramondre Stevenson and James White, you don't have to throw the ball to him 15 yards down the field. Just get them the ball with space and let them make something happen. We all know Pierre Strong's yards after contact stats. We all know Jonnu Smith has been known for that. Like, that's where he's made his money, is because he might be one of the best tight ends with the ball in his hands, and he's so athletic like that. He can make guys miss. So if that's what they're doing to create it, to make it a little bit easier to get these guys involved and make it easier dump passes for Mac to hit them on, I'm all for it. I think that that's a great philosophy, but I agree with you. He's so good, and I think we've seen it. He had a 60-plus yard touchdown to Devontae Parker Friday in the scrimmage. Like, I want to see him take more shots with him too. I don't want to just see him hold him back and let him throw these short little routes to these guys. Yeah, that's got to be part of the offense, but you got to take shots too. This dude had a, let me pull this stat up too, because I know I have it right here. Passing depth on deep balls, 20 plus yards or more in 2020. So his senior year, he had a 58% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, almost 1,200 yards. That was the second highest graded deep ball accuracy in college football, behind Zach Wilson. and he's playing against SEC competition and stuff. And then on mediums, so 10 to 19 yard routes, he had a 70% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. So yeah, make it easy on him all you want, but let the dude throw it out too. You got Devontae Parker, who I just saw again today, the stat on he's like leading the NFL in contested catches in the past 3 years or something, or he's top 2 with Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, guys like that. So let this guy throw. I mean, you've put enough guys around him that have the ability to be a good NFL receiver or pass catcher. Let him show him. Let him, use his smarts to his or let him use his strength, which is his smarts, to his advantage. Get these guys the ball and let them make the plays after. So I'm excited to see what the offense kind of looks like in a game setting, though. I know I've said that, but that's kind of my thoughts on this, and see how they do against the Giants, here in 5 days.
Yeah. Light shadows. We'll touch on your question in just a second. Even if he's had success on those rollout passes, it seems like that's more built for, with his skill set, built for broken plays that is more of a once in a while thing. Oh, I escaped out of the pocket. I'm going to throw it to Jonnu. He found a little spot in space and he goes 25 yards and that's what he does. But on design plays like this, I feel like between what I saw on Thursday, it wasn't bad on Thursday. It wasn't like he was throwing the ball away every play, but he would roll out and then just throw the ball away at the sideline. And then when I was listening to, I think it was Patriots Unfiltered live at training camp, one of the couple of days before that, I think it was on a Tuesday, it was just, Mac rolls out, throws it away, throws it to the sidelines. Mac rolls out, throws it. I don't want to see a ton of that. I feel like Mac was making great progress. He was a really solid rookie quarterback last year. He was a great rookie quarterback last year. So I feel like just based on his knowledge improving, him seeing more defenses, him working on what he worked on, in the offseason, he's bound to get better, and this offense is bound to get better. So I guess I'm just a little more hesitant for the change. I know McDaniels is gone, so something has to change, but Patricia may not have the same offensive mind as McDaniels does obviously, but I don't know. I guess I'm just a little hesitant and about the new offensive philosophy and how they're going to use some of these guys. Like you said, Devontae Parker's a great contested catch wide receiver. I want to see Mac Jones sling it this year as well. So if this offense has more of that in it, I'll be thrilled. I want to see him open it up because he's got a great deep ball and he makes good decisions. So I trust him with the ball in his hands. I trust he's going to make the right decision. So I hope they give him plenty of opportunities. I hope this offense is really opened up for him this season, because a lot of the short passes, we know he can do that, but let's let him do what he can do and use that deep ball and use all 3 levels of the field along with that run game. If that run game can get going and they can get used to doing things, then I think this offense will be firing on all cylinders. But it's definitely going to take some time to get used to, and hopefully this new scheme change works out.
Yeah, Mac's strength is 100% a pocket passer. Like, there's no reason we should make our whole offense off of rollout passes. And I don't think that many teams should do that. When you have a guy like Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, it makes it easier to do that because they can make plays happen with their legs. But you're just risking more injuries, more opportunities for, like you said, throwaways, because you're pretty much eliminating half of the field when you're rolling out, because you never want to see a quarterback turn and throw it late down the middle or throw it behind him, unless you an design screen coming that way, which we have seen New England do, but that's another thing. But you're eliminating half the field. So you're eliminating, if an NFL field's 53 yards wide, you're eliminating 20 something of them. And all of a sudden now you're rolling out and you throw it away and stuff. So I don't think that a team can consistently win games off of a true rollout scheme. Now, it's a very good complement to things. It's very good if you got the run game going, like I mentioned, and it's very good if you know how to use it. If you can get Jonnu the ball 5 times a game rolling out with Mac Jones, do it 100%. I don't care if Jonnu Smith catches it 20 yards or 5 yards down the field. Get him the ball, and I think good things will happen. That's what New England didn't do last year. They didn't just find ways to get our playmakers the ball, whether it was, a handoff, a pitch, a, short little catch and dump to Jonnu Smith, and then let him make plays. So I'm all for that. But like you said, yeah, we got to wait and see what they're doing, come preseason game 1 to preseason game 2 to preseason game 3, then what they carry over and what they think is the best going into the regular season.
Yeah. And I mean, like you just mentioned, guys like Lamar and Kyler, Kyler comes out guns blazing the first half of the season, and then he tails off, and he's half the quarterback he was late in the year as he was early in the year. So that's due to just wear and tear of taking these hits and being the kind of quarterback that he plays like. So it's not sustainable. A guy like Mac is not built like that. Lamar's kind of a different animal. He's kind of a unicorn. He can avoid these tackles. He does well protecting his body and sliding after he gets the amount of yardage that he knows he can get. And sometimes he can make people miss. He's such a hard guy to tackle in space. And usually if you're hitting him, you're not getting a big enough hit to do much damage to Lamar. So obviously little things pile up here and there with injuries over time as a quarterback getting hit. But it's not what Mac is built for. So I think it's a good question. I still want to touch on Light Shadow's question after, but this kind of relates to what we're talking about. Was Cole Strange drafted as a wide zone fit, or is he fit in any offense? If so, it would suck to have him and revert back to the Brady system. I'll let you touch on this one, Jace.
Yeah, I threw this one out there in my Pierre Strong draft breakdown video because both Pierre Strong and Cole Strange come from super heavy zone schemes. So Cole Strange in his 4 years at UT Chattanooga, 82.5% of his run blocking snaps came off of zone schemes. He ran, a 5.03 40. He's more of an athletic guy. You've heard Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia praise how he, can move for his size and how he's mature and he gets out and runs well. So I think that he was definitely drafted. They had to have known. Like, I don't think that you can draft a guy in the first round and be like, we're going to convert him into a zone scheme guy or a gap scheme guy from a zone scheme. If they knew that they were going to change their offensive scheme and they knew they were going to go to a zone scheme and they took Cole Strange, who still is tagged as a reach at pick 29, I think that they had to have known that they were going to go to a zone scheme, and he is, it's easy for him to come from a zone to a zone scheme. So yeah, I really do think that they knew that he was a wide zone fit, zone scheme type of blocker. And that's why they drafted him, a little earlier than what most teams would have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Usually you're not going to reach on a guy and have him not be a scheme fit. Usually you're reaching on a guy because you're like, okay, is it a reach? Yes, but he's a perfect scheme fit for what we're looking to do. So I think it's definitely what they want to transition to, is more of that wide zone scheme. We'll see how it works out, because we get a couple guys on that offensive line that maybe don't fit as well in that system. So that's why they're kind of rotating people at that right guard position. Edward says here, if we want to have a QB, they better not stick to that running bull crap, is all I got to say. So I don't mind the run game. Like Mac, I think Mac will be better playing off a run game. Every quarterback is. Like, you see guys like Mahomes or Josh Allen, they can do incredible things with their arms and throw across the body 80 yards. Like, stuff that shouldn't be good throws are good throws to them. But when they become one-dimensional, it's easier for people to stop them. And it's just, when somebody has a run game, it opens everything up. It makes the defense, it makes the linebacker sit there for an extra second, making sure when you're doing a play action fake or any of that, it makes them react thinking, okay, we got to stop the run. And then, okay, it's a pass. We got to sprint back, or vice versa. It's just, you need to have a complementary game. That's how offenses are most successful. When you're one dimensional, it makes everything easier for the defense to read and react to. So I hope we have a dominant run game, because that is only going to make Mac Jones a better quarterback.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier when you can run the ball. You look at the great teams in the NFL, they've been able to run the ball and get those linebackers sucked up, and then they can run play action and dumb it. When Tom Brady was here, we had dang good run games too. LeGarrette Blount, we had guys that could run the ball, and that just made it super easy for New England to do what they wanted to do. When it's one dimensional, when you can flip a coin, 100 times, it's going to be 50-50 every other time, because they're, this is kind of a bad analogy, but I'll get to my point, right? When you're flipping a coin and it's either heads or tails, you think of run or pass, and the team is good at both of them. What are you going to sell out on? Are you going to sell it on the pass, or are you going to let them run for 200 yards a game? I guarantee you, most NFL teams that run for 200 yards a game don't lose. So what do you want to do? Stack the box, and then now you're giving single coverage to guys like Devontae Parker, who can go up and make the contested catches one-on-one, or now you got to guard Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith with a slow linebacker that can't really run with him? Or do you want to, play 2 high safeties in the back and have 6 guys in the box, and now you're going to let Damian Harris run with his physicality for 5 yards a carry. What do you want to do? Or when you're one dimensional, it's so much easier. If you're flipping a coin 100 times and you know it's going to be heads every time, that's easy. There's no difference in it. So when you're balanced on offense, that's where it comes. Now I'm looking at the run to pass ratios last year for NFL teams. The Buccaneers were 65% pass. I think that it needs to be closer to 60-40 in my mind. I still think that in the NFL nowadays, especially, I think you should be passing it a little bit more. But if you're running the ball right around 40% of the times and you're sticking around 4 yards a carry, that is hard to stop for defenses. And that's what New England needs to be at this year, especially without a true number one receiver where you can just rely on, hey, it's 3rd and 5. Let's throw it to Devontae Adams. Hey, it's 3rd and 5. Let's throw it to Stephon Diggs. It's 3rd and 5. Let's throw it to Cooper Kupp. We don't have a guy like that, not taking a shot at the dudes we do have, but we don't have a game changer like that in the passing game, and we haven't for a while. So it's hard to rely on the passing game so much because we don't have that tier 1 receiver.
I think the perfect example of this is the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback. We saw what he was in Miami. We saw what he's been in his career. He goes to Tennessee. He makes some improvements, obviously, but he gets that lethal running game, and he gets arguably the best running back in the NFL in the backfield behind him. And then he gets A.J. Brown as a weapon. He has a weapon in a tremendous running game. And all of a sudden, the Titans are the number 1 seed every other year in the playoffs, it seems now. So they're always competing for playoff spots. And at the end of the day, what stopped them was the Titans' run game kind of came to a halt, and it was all on Tannehill, and they became one-dimensional, and he turned the ball over in some key spots. So being a balanced offense, having a running game, especially not every running game is going to be, you don't have Derrick Henry, so not everything's going to be that easy. But when you got a guy like that in the backfield, it just opens up so much for you if you can consistently run the ball for 4.5 to 6 yards a carry. That's great. So having Damian Harris and Ramondre stay fresh, switch things up, run the ball a lot, have success doing that, and then open things up in the play action game for Mac Jones and the offense, and get some of these weapons down the field, Tyquan, Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, and then have these tight ends crossing across the field and doing what they do. It's a great recipe for success. So I think this offense just needs to stay balanced. I don't think we should just be passing the ball every play or running it every play. I think, like you said, a good 60-40 balance. And the way the NFL is trending, passing is going to be more prominent, obviously, in every offense. So that's just a given. So 60-40, somewhere around that range, just having balance, keeping the defense on their toes and not knowing what to expect, that just makes things so much harder to stop.
Yeah, this is interesting. The Colts stats, or the Colts record last year when Jonathan Taylor went for over 100 yards, 9-1. They finished the season. Gosh, what did they finish as? I'll have to pull that up. But the Titans record when Derrick Henry goes for over 100 yards, 22-3. Like, I promise you guys, when teams are going for over 100 yards, and these are elite running backs, so that's a little bit different. But when these guys are going for over 100 yards, it makes it so much easier on the quarterbacks and their job, and simplifying the scheme and getting linebackers to buy it up. So I do agree with what Edward's kind of saying here, though. I think that he's more talking about quarterback runs, and I agree. I look at all the quarterbacks in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, great cornerback. Quarterback. Sorry. I don't know if he'll ever win a Super Bowl, because there's a lot of dudes in the NFL that can run a 4.3 40. And, when know that Lamar Jackson is going to run and he can't pass it, and he can't consistently fit the ball in tight windows and throw consistently good balls in man coverage or zone coverage, and, he's going to bail out on the run. 1, injuries happen, and 2, it makes it one-dimensional. What's the point of having a quarterback when he's, more of a running back? Same with Kyler Murray. The last 2 years, he's gotten hurt, before week 12, and then they've been horrible the last half of the season. So injuries is the number one thing for me to stay away from, giving your quarterback 8 to 10 carries a game. But, some guys look at that and have a game changer like Lamar Jackson and stuff like that. But still, you don't see these running quarterbacks really winning a ton of Super Bowls. You look at Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes can move a little, but who's going to sit here and tell me that Patrick Mahomes is not a pass first quarterback? Like, yeah, he can run. And I think you have to be able to do stuff with your legs to escape the pocket and create if you have to on third down, but you're not going to see a lot of teams with consistently running quarterbacks win a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford last year, Joe Burrow, look at the Bengals offense last year. He can just sit there and pick apart defenses with his arm and his smarts. That's still the way of the quarterback in the offense in my mind. So,
yeah, I think you might be right here. I think Edward might have been talking about the quarterback running. And if that's what you're talking about, Edward, then I agree. They shouldn't have Mac Jones be a running quarterback. Like, that just doesn't make any sense health wise or for his skill set. So I agree with you there if that's what you're talking about. But as far as balancing the offense, having a running game, not with the quarterback, I'm not saying, but having a running game with your running backs and your offense in general is important to success. So let's touch on a couple questions here.
Yeah.
You think Mac Jones can build on last year's offense, or do you think that it's all left with McDaniels?
No, I think he can build. I mean, I think that if he only had 1 year in the Patriots system when Josh McDaniels was here, it's not like he's Tom Brady that spent 18 years with Josh McDaniels and all of a sudden now he's going to a different one. Now that's a little different because Tom Brady, as he knows how to play in the NFL and he can play in any system, but this is a rookie quarterback who had 1 year. Now, yes, I think it's going to take some time for him to get used to the new system, but I think he can definitely build on last year's thing. And what I look for him to do is to get better towards the end of the year once he's been in the scheme for longer. I think that you kind of saw that with him. Games 1 through 5, he had good games, but not solid ones. We went on the win streak. We had the running game going. Mac Jones was doing great things. And then the last weeks after the bye when we couldn't win, all that momentum he had seemed to, fall off, and he fell off the rookie of the year favorite. He was throwing multiple picks a game, trying to force things. So I look for him to continue to get better throughout the year. And I definitely think he can build on this. Now, I don't want to say anyone can have a Joe Burrow type of leap because that was an insane leap, and they added a top 5 receiver in the NFL for him in Jamar Chase. But I definitely think that you can see, Mac Jones go for over 4,000 yards this year and, push for 30 touchdowns.
I hope so. I think that'd be a really good stepping stone for him is getting to that benchmark. Red Sox just got walked off on a solo home run by the Royals.
Oh, no, the Royals.
We've lost 2 out of 3 to the Royals so far. That's awesome. Anyways, so sticking to the Patriots, I think he'll take things from McDaniels, things he learned, lessons he learned. But at the end of the day, if the scheme changes, he's going to have some knowledge. But at the scheme changes, he's got to switch things up a little bit. I'm sure they'll keep some things. I don't think they're drawing a whole new offense, but
yeah,
I think they definitely want to change some of the scheme and switch things up a little bit. So is this time to worry yet? No, I wouldn't say yet. We don't. It's way too early to worry. I'd say 2 weeks from now, if we're really struggling against the Panthers, the Giants, and then the Panthers, maybe we can say, okay, let's start to take a closer look at this offense and see if this is something that we should start to be getting nervous about. But overall, it's too early. We're 9 practices into training camp. It's plenty of time left before the season starts. So I wouldn't say worry quite yet.
The other thing too is if we are worrying right now, we should have worried last year at 2-4, which we all did. And then the Patriots rattled off 6 straight and were the number 1 seed for a couple weeks. So I think if anything, no need to worry this early for sure, but it can turn at any time. The Patriots can turn at any time. Any team in the NFL can, flip it at any time throughout the season. So I don't know when is too late to stop or to, call the season quits. Obviously, once you get out of the playoff race, but I think it was looking super bad for New England last year, sitting at 2-4. And then 4 weeks later, we're sitting at the we're pushing the 1 seed. We beat the Titans after that. And we're like, holy crap, like this team flipped a switch. So it can happen in the blink of an eye in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to touch on a couple quick things. Edward says we won't know in the preseason. I'm not saying the preseason games, but a lot of times when they do joint practices with these teams, you hear a lot of valuable information about they try out a lot of things that you might see during the season. It's a lot more real stuff than the preseason games that are televised. So these joint practices are sometimes more important than the actual preseason games themselves, because that's where they're really running their actual stuff when people can't record it. There's no film on it. So I think the joint practices will be a huge indicator of how this offense is looking. I mean, as good as we can get before the season starts. So I'm going to be paying attention to those for sure. And Mike here says all this micromanaging, all because Belichick doesn't have a number one receiver. Scheme this, scheme that. A lot of trust in Shanahan's system now. So honestly, that's the problem that we kind of keep talking about is Belichick doesn't go get a number one receiver. And what that does is it causes everybody, including the quarterback, most of all, to be perfect for this offense to work. And we had Brady for so long that we were able to do that because Brady was damn near perfect more times than he wasn't. And we won a lot of Super Bowls doing that. But now you got a rookie quarterback, a young guy, and a lot of new pieces to this offense that you can't trust to be perfect every play. And the defense can't stop these offenses. Obviously, last year, the Bills didn't punt like a single time, so that wasn't good enough. It's tough. You see all these teams like we've talked about during the offseason. The Super Bowl, you got Jamar Chase as Joe Burrow's number one weapon. He took a ginormous leap once he got him. You see Matt Stafford has Cooper Kupp, OBJ, Robert Woods. You got all these guys. It's ridiculous. And then some of the other teams, the Chiefs, they had Tyreek Hill. The Bills have Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Cole Beasley. It's just every good playoff team seems to have a number one bona fide stud wide receiver. And they just make a huge difference. They really do. And they can make up for mistakes. They can bail you out at certain points of the game. And they're game breakers. So I would love to have a number one wide receiver. Hopefully Devontae Parker can kind of stay healthy for a season and prove he can be that. Maybe Tyquan Thornton can develop into that. We'll see. But as of right now, we don't have that. This coming season, we got a lot of money to spend in the offseason, but there's no good wide receivers on the market anymore. All of them have signed extensions. Unless Belichick trades for one this offseason, then I don't see us getting one next offseason either. So we'll see where it ends up. Hopefully we see progression from these guys and somebody can kind of make a name for themselves as a number one receiver.
For sure. Light shadows. The Pats had 7 losses last year. I think they may not get that many wins this year. Obviously, we'll have a schedule prediction and stuff coming out here shortly, probably after most of the preseason stuff is wrapped up. But I'm hard pressed to say that Bill Belichick and this team can't get 7 wins at least. I think if what do you know what Vegas has the line at?
I think 8.5.
8.5.
I think so.
See, that's right where, let's see, I have it right here. Yeah, they do have it at 8.5. I think that's right where I'd draw the line at. Like, if you're telling me they're going 9-8, I'd say, yeah, I could see 9 wins. If you're telling me they're going 8-9, I could say, yeah, I could see 8 wins. Like, there's a lot of toss-up games, and it all depends on how they're playing at certain times. I think that really, you look at the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, that will be tough. Obviously, the Bills will be tough. The Colts, depending on how Matt Ryan comes in and plays, like, there's a lot of tough games on here, but then there's a lot of other question marks. Like, you're playing Buffalo, and yeah, we got trounced by them last year, but this is a divisional opponent. Like, anything can happen in those games. We could throw it 3 times again and beat them. I'm not rolling anything out there. Now we'll see how we're playing at that point. The Browns now don't have Deshaun Watson for that game, which we play in week 6. Yeah, that's probably, I would favor us. I'd say that's a win, and then there's obviously going to be games like last year where New England's going to lose, and you're going to sit here and say, how the hell do we lose to those guys? Like, we're totally better than them. So this is the NFL. It's tough, but I would say if I had to bet right now, and when our the season predictions come out, it'll be set in stone for me. But I'm saying at least 8 wins. I wouldn't go under 8 wins, in my opinion, until we see this team in person. And obviously injuries can change that in a heartbeat, like Edwards saying, or Mike is saying right here, when you got Wynn versus Von Miller, Jermaine Johnson twice a year. Yeah. This stuff can, no, you're good. This stuff can be, it's a fragile league right here. Like, one injury to Mac Jones, one injury to Matt Judon, one injury to one of the cornerbacks that already aren't top tier guys. And now you have to play a ton of reps into your rookie who might not be ready week 1 or week 2. Like, injuries play a big part in this. So there's a lot that come into the predictions, but I don't know. I feel like 7 is maybe a little low.
Yeah, I feel like 7 might be a little low, but I kind of agree with you in that 8-9 range. We'll, like you said, we'll give the official predictions in a little a couple weeks probably. But I don't know if Isaiah Wynn has gone up against Von Miller before, but I am truly not looking forward to it in the slightest. So that's definitely going to be season. I love it's going to be scary. I tried to read this as I was speaking. I love preseason. I do as well. It just football being back is, I mean, it's incredible. I think I saw a tweet. It was like from now until after the Super Bowl, there's a NFL or college game every single week. So I I'm excited. I love that. I love to hear that. Even just preseason, just getting some football back is awesome. Let's see. Anything else offensively we want to touch on here?
Light shadows again, just talking about how Mac struggles at the beginning of the year, kind of rooted from the offensive line struggles, which is totally true. Like Trent Brown not being there for an extended period of time until week 10, like he went out very early week 1 and missed 9 games. So yeah, that's tough. Like if you take Trent Brown out, if David Andrews were to get hurt, yeah, it's going to be scary for Mac. And so I that's kind of why I lean to, I don't know if I don't know how many wins New England's going to get. Maybe, and I hope no one gets hurt. Like I'm not wishing injuries, but the Bills are favored to win the Super Bowl right now. If Josh Allen gets hurt, what do you think their chances are? If Matthew Stafford gets hurt, if Tom Brady's like one injury can literally ruin a team, and you never know when that's going to happen. So it will be interesting to see how that happens. I hope no one gets injured in the NFL. Injuries suck for the players, for the fans. New England, as a fan for me, I want to go out there and I want to win a Super Bowl playing the best teams and, proving that we're the best, not having people be like, oh, you only won because of injuries and, so-and-so was hurt. And that's how, like I want to go out there and win. So I don't want any injuries to happen, but in the NFL, it's so fragile. It happens so fast. It's scary to think of how it can flip and your season can, be looking really scary here in the blink of an eye. So,
yeah. And I mean, I think that the struggles at the beginning of the year also, like with Mac just taking a beating, getting right back up, I think that earned him a lot of respect from the O-line. You could tell throughout the season he was getting more and more respect. And David Andrews was getting frustrated. He was pissed at times, like, hey, we got to keep this kid upright, and we're just not doing a good enough job protecting him. And he's just taking it. And I like seeing them come to his defense a couple times when he was getting bounced around a little bit, like that late hit. I think it was against the Chargers, maybe, or something like that. So keeping Mac Jones healthy is the number one priority. Keeping your quarterback healthy is the number one priority for every team. And yeah, like you said, things could change so fast. So the picture can flip quick. If a couple guys start performing to the level we expect them to on this offense, and then a couple defensive guys step up, then maybe where is it? Maybe Pouncey here is right, and this team ceiling could be 12 wins. Like you never know. It's going to be interesting to see, and that's why football's so awesome. Is there's always a team that comes out of nowhere, like the Bengals last year, who ends up in the Super Bowl and was one play away from winning it. So it's the greatest sport in the world, and I'm excited it's back for sure.
For sure. I wish White could make the whole season. He'd be a big boost. This comment, I haven't read much of this, but maybe you saw something. He said, or delusional Pats fan, any truth about Thornton taking slots out of this or taking a lot of snaps from the slot? Did you see that?
I have not seen anything on that. It didn't from practice the other day. He wasn't in the slot from what I could see. So that was just the practice I saw in person. I can't speak on a couple of the other ones, but I did not see that on Thursday.
Okay, cool. And then Light Shadows, one more. This is funny. What do you think of all the Tom Brady reports about him and the Dolphins? And I mean, does that kind of upset you? I think it digs to all the Patriots fans' hearts. I don't know, what we should think about it because it didn't happen. And I honestly think Bill's just a master chess player and somehow orchestrated all of this to have it be revealed. But it does kind of, dig the Patriots fans' heart, I think.
It just stinks, and you could see it that he was done before the season was even over. Like he was just done, and you could tell. Like when this report came out, I was surprised, but at the same time, I wasn't. I was like, you could tell Brady was just over it and just was ready for the next chapter. And it sucks. It really sucks, and it stinks that he wasn't focused throughout the whole year. Focused on the Patriots. He was busy talking to the Dolphins and thinking about his next chapter. Maybe this team would have been a little further in the playoffs if they all had their heads in the game and were focused on winning this year and not just thinking about whatever the next step's going to be. But yeah, especially the Dolphins, dude. Like AFC
Yeah.
East, really, like, could have been any other team. He ended up going to Tampa,
Could've.
so at least he didn't end up going to the Dolphins. But I don't know. It's unfortunate that it ended the way it did. I love Tom. I always will, for the memories he gave me as a child, as a young adult, whatever. I love Tom. It's just, it stinks that this is kind of the memory that we're gonna have of him, is now him in a Bucks uniform, late in his career, him retiring, coming out of retirement. Now, oh, he was talking to the Dolphins his last year with the Patriots. It's just, I just wish he retired a Patriot and we could just all live in the memories he gave us, and watch these Super Bowls over and over again, and just admire his legacy that he left here. And it's unfortunate he's with a new team, and then we're seeing these things about him talking to other teams during the season with us. It's just, it stinks. It's just, it's not what I want to hear. I just want to be able to focus on the greatness that Tom brought us, and all the success and happiness we had.
Yeah, and because of the greatness, that's why I think it's not going to be as big of a deal for Patriots fans. Like, obviously, it's going to hurt, but when you look at him, you're like, the dude is the GOAT. He gave us 18 great seasons, 6 Super Bowls. He appeared in 9, multiple records, MVPs. Like, I think that will ultimately be, what kind of Patriots fans remember of him. But this will always be like the sour taste in the mouth, and what they'll think of. So it's interesting. All this stuff's, crazy, but let's move on to the defense. You think so? Move on there.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
delusional Pats fans blaming Giselle, supermodel
Model
wife
Miami.
plus Miami, Yoko Gazelle. Yeah, so,
I am seeing more of this than I expected. I think Brady did us wrong. He can retire over that. Like, I am seeing more of that than I expected. Just for what he gave us for 20 years, I have a hard time getting to that point, but I'm definitely frustrated. Like, I was extremely upset when he left, and now it just seems like we kind of get another layer of the onion that gets peeled back all the time, of more things that kind of delude what we could focus on of his past career. And now it's like, oh, there's this and this and that, and who knows how long he'll play with the Bucks. But yeah, I think we can move on. If we missed any of your guys' questions, if you want to make sure that we don't miss any of your questions, you can. I think you can tap on somewhere in the comment section. If you go to the live chat, we have a super chat availability option. However much money you want to donate, it ranges different time frames, and you can donate. It will highlight your comment on the stream. It will pop up for a certain amount of time. It says it before you donate. Anything you guys donate would be much appreciated. Helps us continue doing what we're doing. Upgrade different things, the graphics or the streams, build a website, all this stuff. We got a bunch of projects in mind that we want to do. So anything you guys could, if you guys want to make sure we don't miss any comments or anything like that, any donations would be much appreciated. And we obviously appreciate your guys' support that you've been showing lately.
for sure. Yeah, that's just a little money sign down by the chat box. But other than that, we need to thank our sponsor. For those of you that don't know, we're partnered with Underdog Fantasy. Sorry, Underdog Fantasy now. They are doing the Best Ball Mania 3 right now, $10 million in prizes. And it's the best place to play fantasy football this summer. The Best Ball Mania tournament has $10 million in total prizes. I'm already entered in it. You guys should be entered in it. And the best part is you just draft your fantasy football team, and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, no in-season management. And Underdog gives you your best score each week of the season and the highest score at the end of the year. So say you start Derrick Henry, he breaks his foot like he did last year, and he only gets you 3 points. It doesn't matter if you had him in your starting lineup. They're going to put in the best start the players that had the most points for all of your running backs. So that's a nice thing. And then champion of Best Ball Mania last year, drafted in June. So there's no time limit. We're already past June, but you can still enter. I think it's about a quarter of the way full. So there's still plenty of entries. It's $25 to enter. And plus, Underdog is going to match your first deposit up to $100 when you sign up with our promo code, which is on the screen or in the link of the description, which is Pat's Drive. And that's 4 free entries into Best Ball Mania. If you pay $50 and they match it with 50, you can get 4 chances at $10 million or any of the other prizes. So again, head to underdogfantasy.com or download the app in the App Store, sign up with promo code Pat's Drive or click the link in the bio and draft your Best Ball Mania 3 team today. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Pat's Drive. And if you're interested, we will be doing a fantasy football league with the Patriots Drive. We'll do a Patriots Drive league. So you guys can sign up, get your money deposited, and we'll probably do, somewhere around $25 entry fee. And we'll play with you guys. We'll do a little 12-man league. So stay on the lookout for that. And if you want to do that.
Absolutely. And light shadows here. Either way, if you're a real Patriots fan, make sure to like the live stream, and let's show the support to the Patriots Drive channel. We appreciate you, light shadows, and we appreciate all you guys. We're not wrapping up just yet. We got a couple more things to touch on, obviously. Edward says, thanks for the feedback to our questions. Of course, thank you guys for all the comments and questions. We appreciate it. So it makes this live stream fun as you guys interacting with us. So keep showing the support. It means a lot to us. I want to touch on this before we switch to the defense. Just a couple really quick things on the offense. I don't think Ty Montgomery is getting cut anymore. I don't either. He's popped at camp. He looks like a guy who can do a lot of different things, a versatile player that Belichick will figure out how to use some way to help this offense, regardless of the scheme change. So I agree. I think Montgomery is certainly somebody that's going to definitely find a spot on this roster and maybe be more of an impact than we really could have ever imagined him to be.
Yeah, you go look at, and I shared this last live stream, you go look at the amount of snaps he took in the slot, running back, out wide. He can do a ton of different things. I think that'll be valuable while James White is hurt. And, when he comes back, just making the offense a little bit more creative. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Ty Montgomery, what we're hearing out of him. I think that he'll add a new dimension to this offense. And he's another one of the guys, you get the ball in his hands, wherever it is on the field, let him do good things. So,
yeah, and Light Shadows here says, I'm excited for the start of preseason and wondering how some of our players will look in year 2. Do you guys think Matt Judon will look like he did at the beginning of the season, or will he be invisible again?
This is tough because you think of the Patriots defensive line and you think of who is the offense going to try to double team. Right now, there's no one other than Matt Judon. If you're telling me who a tight end has to chip, yeah, maybe Barmore. I still think that in a game, maybe he's going to prove. I think that he is going to be great, but I think that maybe if you're looking at it from the aspect of a team and you're saying, do we double team Barmore or Matt Judon? I think they're going to lean towards
Jordan Davis if we would have drafted him.
Cole, get off of it, man.
I'm just saying.
So I think they're going to lean to Judon. I think Judon is going to be a big part of the defense again. But I think when you look at him, you got to have guys like Uche, Ronnie Perkins, Christian Barmore, Gotcha, who just signed an extension. You got to have guys like him step up to take the pressure off Matt Judon and let him be the beast that we saw in the first half. So I hope we get first half Matt Judon, and he's like that all year. I mean, coming out, he didn't practice on Friday, I believe. And you said he's been out the last 2 days. Yeah. So, let him get healthy. Let him come in. Let him be the, 12, 15 sack guy. Let him be the leader on the team defense in sacks. But you got to have other guys come in to spell him, or else he's going to be dealing with 2-3 guys sent at him. He's going to get chipped by running backs, tight ends. He's going to have extra help sliding to him from the offensive line. So I think that that's going to be interesting to see who steps up other than Judon, and that will free up Matt Judon.
And I think Delusional Pats fan makes a good point here. Like, would we have been better off keeping Shaq Mason and drafting Jermaine Johnson? I think probably. I think so. And then you just keep Onwenu at left guard instead, or re-sign Ted Karras because the Bengals barely offered him more money. He could have. I think he would have stayed here if he would have matched that or gave him at least pretty close. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. This defensive line situation is, like you said, somebody's got to help him. He can't do it on his own. If he is doing it all on his own and they don't have to worry about anybody on the opposite side of him, he's probably going to be not invisible, but he's probably going to have another tough. It's going to be tough for him to make the impact he did at the beginning of the season because they're going to know, hey, this is the only guy we got to worry about, him and Christian Barmore of the middle. So Uche, if he can flash, that'd be huge. One piece of information that I thought was noteworthy was when Judon was out, Anthony Jennings was taking his spot in the starting group. And apparently he's been solid. He's looked good so far. He's kind of been standing out more than Ronnie Perkins and Josh Uche. So if he can step up, that's a huge development. That would be awesome. If he can be the opposite side of Judon, and then you rotate you rotate Uche and Perkins as the kind of the second tier of those edge players, then I think that'd be awesome. And Uche can come in situationally on passing downs and be that guy off the edge. He's a menace off the edge when he can just go get the passer and he doesn't have to worry about the run game. So if Anthony Jennings can kind of keep developing and do his thing, I think he certainly thinks he has something to prove after missing out the entire last season because he didn't come into camp in shape. That's got to be demoralizing. So I think he probably was working hard, getting ready for the season, making sure he was good to go, and hopefully he continues to progress because that would be a huge help to Judon on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, he was a third-round guy for us back in 2020. When you go to his snaps by position when he was at Alabama, he actually played 613 snaps on the D-line. So if that's what they want him as an edge defender that can come in, and then his let me go back and look at his production. I remember him coming out of high school as a highly rated guy, 6'3", 260. He had 7 sacks his senior year total. He had 18 sacks in his 4 years at Alabama, 74 hurries, 127 total pressures. Like, those are good numbers playing in the SEC, especially for a loaded Alabama defense that has tons of dudes coming through and are rotating consistently. So if he comes in, that just adds another guy in the mix that can step up because we need someone to step up. And I think that Raekwon McMillan, Cameron McGrone, Mac Wilson, guys like that, I feel comfortable with having them in the back end and, moving Jennings up front. I don't think we really need him in the back end or in the back end of the front seven at the linebacker position. I think that we have good young guys that we can trust there and see what they're all about, and let Jennings kind of have a little change of scenery, see if he can come in and be that second pass rusher that we've been looking for.
Yeah, and apparently Devon Godchaw has done pretty good since his contract extension. So if we can get a more consistent version of him, obviously Belichick didn't think the issues last year stopping the run were on him. So if we can get a more consistent version of him and get some guys around him, Barmore and the rest of the D-line improving and continuing to do well, Barmore's a stud. I like what I've seen from him so far, but it's just going to be huge for this defensive line because we can't have everything on the shoulders of one or two different players. That's just not a recipe for success on the defense side of the ball. Good question here from Light Shadows about Malcolm Butler. Which version are we going to get of him this season?
I'd be able to answer this if he wasn't just retired for a year or two, right? Like,
yeah. Based off what we've seen so far, it's a big question mark. He's had his good days. He's had his bad days. He's bounced back after a couple bad days, but he's been pretty up and down. But it's early. He was just retired. So it's like he's got a month and a week left to get to where he wants to be. I don't think he's going to be a number one corner for us. I think that's Jalen Mills. Jalen Mills has looked fantastic. He's been really awesome so far this offseason. So if we continue to see him do his thing, Jalen Mills is going to be the number one corner for this team. And as scary as that sounds, that's the situation we're in right now. And he's done well so far. So hopefully he can do that against top tier competition. But he has certainly looked well. So Malcolm Butler, if he can be a 2 or a 3 for us, I think you're happy with that. He was just retired. So I don't think I'm setting my expectations too high for him. Don't expect Malcolm Butler of the past. Don't expect him to be an all-pro or anything like that. So I would set your expectations at a low to medium level for him and go from there. If you get more from him, you get more from him. Awesome. But I wouldn't set anything, my expectations too high.
He's 32 years old and he was just retired. I think exactly what we're seeing is what is going to be similar to what we get is inconsistency. I don't think that if he was super consistent, he might push for a starting spot in here because we don't have the talent or we don't have, a lot of guys that have NFL experience like he does. So I think if he was super consistent, you could get away with playing him as a 1 and rotating him. But I think, like you said, at least for the first couple of weeks, while he's still getting back into shape, getting into the thing, getting into the scheme again, getting back accustomed to playing in the NFL, I think it's going to be a lot of inconsistency. I think you're going to see flashes of Malcolm Butler that Patriots fans know, but he's not going to be able to sustain that for a whole game or a whole 2 games or a whole 3 games. And that's why he retired and, kind of wasn't a dude when he was in Arizona last. And, I don't think we can expect him to be any better than what we saw there, especially coming off of a retirement stint.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Thanks for tuning in, Light Shadows. We appreciate your support as always. Yeah, no, I agree. If we get anything from Butler this year, I'll be happy. It's just it's hard to expect too much from a guy who just was retired. I mean, he was just on his couch a few months ago, and he came in for a workout with the Patriots, and now he's going to be one of our top corners. So we'll see. I think a guy like Terrence Mitchell has showed that
Yep.
maybe he's got a ton of compete. He's got a ton of competitiveness, and he's physical, and he's not afraid of anybody. I saw a clip of him and Jarvis Landry going at it in Hard Knocks a few years ago, and that was kind of fun to see. So he wants to be a contributor on this team, and if he keeps working hard and doing his thing, I think you might see Jalen Mills, Terrence Mitchell, and then Marcus Jones was running with the starters. I know Jonathan Jones has been I know he's had his injury that he's recovering from. He's been back. But Marcus Jones was kind of running with the starters a little bit last night, I believe, at that walkthrough. So maybe he'll be the guy who ends up stepping in and contributing. He seems more like a slot guy with Jonathan Jones. We kind of need another outside guy, but it's between kind of Malcolm Butler, Jack Jones, and Terrence Mitchell for that second to third cornerback spot behind next to Jalen Mills and Jonathan Jones.
Yeah, and I love Malcolm Butler, but I think Patriots fans should be cheering for Jack Jones, Marcus Jones, Sean Wade to pass him up at early, if not halfway through the season, because that's the future. You got those guys on rookie contracts. You got 32-year-old Malcolm Butler on a 1-year deal. Like, what's the tie to Malcolm Butler for the future? He's just getting older and older, and you're going to have younger guys under him. So, yeah, I would love for Malcolm Butler to come in and make an immediate impact and be able to play good for us. But I think that later on in the season, you got to look for guys like Jack Jones or Marcus Jones to pass him up and, be taking those reps in games and in practice and, be able to start stepping into this Patriots defense. Cause that's where New England has their future into. You don't want, us to look there and say, holy crap, like, now 32-year-old Malcolm Butler was our best corner this year, because I don't think that that's going to be saying a lot if that's what the case is. I mean, he can be a solid corner, but I don't think he's going to be all pro type level. He's not going to be Pro Bowl type level. And if he's the best, then that means Jalen Mills is playing a little bit worse than what we thought he would play. So my expectations for Butler are, I love that he's back here. He made a name for himself here. I think it's a cool story, and I hope that he's a good, leader and mentor for the young guys. But by the midpoint in the season, I hope that Jack Jones has passed him up. Sean Wade's coming along. Guys like that we have our future in are the ones that are really showing, flashes of, good things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Butler is dominant, that'd be awesome. But at the end of the day, we want our future to look bright, not our past. And so I have a lot of confidence that Jalen Mills is going to step up this year a little bit. And I don't know. I feel like one of these two rookies I have a lot of confidence in Belichick's ability to draft corners. And usually I guess he has more success with the undrafted guys than the drafted guys. But I feel like one of these two guys is bound to stick, and hopefully one of them contributes more than we expect them to, because that would certainly help out with our whole cornerback situation. Light Shadow says Jalen Mills has given us more than we could have hoped. The fact that he's going to be our number one corner scares the hell out of me, especially when we're playing the Bills. Yeah, with all the number one receivers in the league right now, some of the teams on our schedules have some really dominant receivers. He's going to be going up against, I guess either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, one of those two, unless they put a special package on the field with two slot corners. Maybe Marcus Jones guards one and Jonathan Jones guards the other. But just in our division between Garrett Wilson, and then you guys got guys like Cleveland were playing against Amari Cooper, Pittsburgh, you got Johnson, the Raiders. There's a few. Devontae Adams obviously is not ideal. So there's going to be a bunch of really tough matchups for him, but that's another thing that we'll kind of see is what this team, if they still feel confident playing man, or if they kind of dip more into zone. And so far in practices, they've been, looks like man to man, but I'm sure they're going to sneak in some zone there and mix things up a little bit.
Yeah. Travis asks, this is kind of an interesting question. Who do y'all think is going to be the yearly undrafted free agent to make the roster? Or is it too early to tell in your mind?
I think it's a little early to tell. There's not a lot of people who stand out as, oh, this guy's gonna this guy's going to make an impact year one. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're 8 days in, so it's kind of tough. I know one of the D tackles has stood out a little bit.
LeBron Ray, the Alabama guy.
Yeah, he stood out a little bit, but as far as make the roster, I don't know. I guess I would say him. I'd say Ray as far as if I had to make a prediction now of one of those guys to make it. He's definitely stood out more than anybody else, but it's tough. It's pretty early. But if I had to make a prediction, I'd say him.
I was going to say LeBron Ray. The other one there is the defensive back out of Texas, who I think has some special teams capability in him.
Yep.
Brendan Schooler. I think that we look at the back end guys on an NFL roster, they're going to get their way in through special teams. I think
exactly.
Brendan Schooler is, a prime candidate for that. Has a good personality. I follow him I follow a lot of the guys on social media, but he's always posting, he has a good personality. A lot of Texas fans seem to really liked him a lot. So I would say those two are probably the top two candidates. A lot of people had high hopes in Derek King, and the dude got cut in OTAs, so he's not even with the Patriots anymore. They thought that he was going to make the team, but I would say those two are the leading candidates too.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. Special teams is definitely a huge way to make the roster. So if he can contribute in a heavy way there, then Belichick is much more likely to keep him on this team. So, let's see. If we aren't worried about our defense, then I don't know why. Very shaky cornerbacks, and at the same time, we're unsure about our pass rush or run defense. Yeah, it's very okay to be concerned about our entire defense. The cornerback room is scary. The linebacker room is a bunch of question marks outside of Jawan Bentley. The defensive line is a bunch of question marks outside of Christian Barmore and Matt Judon. And I guess you could say Devon Godjaw, but even he has his own question marks a little bit. It's our run defense is iffy. We don't know for sure what we're getting there. And our pass rush is scary outside of Judon and Barmore. So I completely understand being concerned about it. I'm concerned about it. I'm just trying to have an optimistic mindset and have confidence that Belichick is going to use these pieces to the best of his ability and that somebody's going to step up. That's my hope, is that somebody's going to step up. I'm trying to be confident about it. Week 4, come on here and ask me the same question and we'll see what my response is, because it could be very different. I might have a very different mindset if we are 0-4 and the defense is allowing 40 points a game. Then I'm going to be like, okay, well, this is what we were concerned about. And I am concerned. I'm not saying I'm not. I am very concerned about the defense, but hopefully the offense can keep up and a couple guys on the defensive side can step up. Some of these young players getting opportunities.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said when we didn't re-sign J.C. Jackson. Like if Patriots fans thought it was bad with J.C. Jackson against Stephon Diggs, like, and I think Jalen Mills, like you said, is doing great things, and I have a lot of faith in him, but he's nowhere near the caliber of guy J.C. Jackson is. And if you thought that was rough, I'm a little scared to see that in Buffalo. I'm scared to see him go against Devontae Adams, Chase Claypool, or Deontay Johnson. Like, there are some really good wide receivers that the Patriots have to play, and we don't have a true number one wide receiver. We have a guy that we have made into a very good, productive cornerback for the Patriots, but before the Patriots, he was kind of, a dude that a lot of teams didn't want, and maybe New England overpaid for him last offseason, things like that. So that's a little scary for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely scary. Jalen Mills going against Devontae Adams. That sounds like a nightmare that I might have tonight, but
I'm having it right now in my brain.
I'm currently thinking about it, and it's actually currently scaring the crap out of me. But we'll see what happens. There's no way to know until it happens, and maybe he'll surprise us. He has looked really good in camp, but the offense has looked really shaky. So you never know. I mean, people grow, people develop, people get better. So I'm trying to talk myself into Jalen Mills locking down Devontae Adams. It's not going well, but I'm trying to convince myself that that's going to happen. Let's see. Yeah, if they can get away with man defense, that bodes well for the blitz packages up front. Yeah, true. If you can get away with man defense, then you can kind of send more bodies and help out Matt Judon more and more. So that'd be awesome. But I don't know. We'll see if they can get away with that. I'm not sure. Man to man, that's a great idea with some of these corners. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's a big if, right? Because if you're bringing 6, you got to lock up the other 5 dudes on the 5 eligibles. If you're bringing 5, maybe you got safety help or you got low hole help, and you still got, if you miss 1 tackle, they could be gone to the house. So that's a big if. And, I think that comes with a little creativity in the defense too. And that's where I hope Bill Belichick is at his prime and, still is able to come up with those defensive schemes, because with the lack of talent we have on the defensive side right now on paper, it's looking like a very zone heavy scheme unless, these guys can hang up in man. We talk about the offensive switches to a zone scheme, and I think you're going to see a little bit more zone coverage out of New England than we have. You're still going to see man, but I don't know if it's going to be as man heavy, because I don't know right now if we were to go into a game tomorrow, which obviously we're not, so we don't have to worry about it. But who are you going to, what 3 receivers are you going to, or what 3 corners are you going to trust to consistently lock down these guys? Like, I don't know. Jack Jones can do it, but he's probably far from it right now at an NFL level. I think Jalen Mills is there. We've heard good things out of Terrence Mitchell, but can he consistently do it against, other teams, not just the Patriots wide receivers? So we'll see how that is, and we'll see if that comes with a defensive scheme. So I wanted to answer this question too. He asked this earlier. What games are you going to this year? I'm not going to any right now because I don't live close to the Patriots, but are you going to any? And then what are your expectations for Max stat-wise?
I don't have any games currently on the calendar, but obviously I hope that changes maybe later in the year. Find one. I'm definitely going to one next year at least. But expectations for Mac, I think you mentioned it earlier, somewhere around. So last year he had 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. I'd say 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 picks, or somewhere around that range. Hopefully he's having more success with the touchdowns, more yardage, and less picks. That's ideally what you like to see with more weapons. And then hopefully we'll get to Phil's question here in a second and talk about Jonnu, but hopefully he takes a step forward as well. But I think Mac is definitely going to take a step forward. It all depends. There's so many question marks during the training camp and before the season. It's tough to see what this offense is going to look like when we haven't seen it before. It's hard to predict, but that would be my prediction.
Yeah, I'm going to be very similar to you. I think that's, a super good stat line. I'd probably go a little more yards. I'd go around 4,400. I think 30 touchdowns is super realistic. And if he's throwing more than 10 interceptions, I'd be concerned too. So I'm right around there, maybe a little bit more yards. I could see 33 touchdowns. I think that if you find more success with Jonnu, Hunter Henry, you added a contested catch guy with Devontae Parker in the red zone, you might be able to get a couple more there and not just rely on Damian Harris there or Hunter Henry being the only target. And if they open up the playbook and let Mac Jones throw it deep, I think that's going to be, a big help for him with, his yardage wise, obviously, but maybe he can hit on a couple of those touchdowns.
I'm changing my pick. 6,500 yards, 65 touchdowns, no picks.
Where'd you get that crap from?
That's my expectation now.
That's your expectation.
That's
so if he comes
anything
short
less
there,
is a disappointment.
Wow.
In any of those categories.
All right.
Any of them. If he throws a pick this year, got him. Bring Stidham back. Bring Steady back.
Wow. So
you see that touchdown he got the other night?
Yeah,
Bring
I
did.
Yeah.
Let's get to Phil's question here. Your thoughts on Jonnu Smith? Will he finally make an impact on offense in year 2? I'm hoping for a big year from him.
Yeah, I've actually heard better things from him than Hunter Henry coming out of camp. Now, I'm not worried about Hunter Henry at all, but it seems like they've made it a priority to get him the ball. And if you were in here earlier, we were kind of talking about Mac Jones. They've been doing a little bit more rollout passes with him. And I think that's a little bit to make it easier for Jonnu Smith. Just get him the ball, let him make plays happen with the ball in his hand. So, yeah, I don't think that he can do worse than he did last year. And New England needs him to step up and make plays. So I think that he can definitely make a bigger impact on this offense here too, especially, with the other guys on the field. I think that it's taking a lot of pressure off of him. I mean, he doesn't have to be a 80-yard a game receiver now or tight end, because I think that can come easily for him. But we got so many guys that we can spread the ball out to. It's going to take a lot of pressure off him and make it a lot easier for him to get the ball with a lot of grass in front of him and, do what he does best, make guys miss.
Yeah, Jonnu. So the training camp practice I was at the other day, Jonnu stood out more than anybody else on the offense, in my opinion. He had 6 receptions in the team portion, the team drills, like the 11-on-11s, 77s, whatever. And he went 2-0 in the 1v1s. One of those was against Adrian Phillips, which we know has had success against tight ends. So Jonnu certainly seems to be taking a step forward and being more of a feature of this offense. So having him continue to make progress, I mean, he's getting paid like $14 million a year. He was Belichick's first signing of the offseason last year. So obviously he has something in mind for him. He's tremendously talented. He's one of the best yards after catch tight ends in the NFL. Belichick has said that multiple times. I still believe in Jonnu. I think he's a very talented player. He needs to get the ball in his hands. He needs to improve his route running a little bit. And if he can do that, once the ball's in his hands, that's where he makes things happen. That's where he's a special player. So we just got to find more ways to get him the football in space, because he's certainly a dynamic player once he gets the ball in his hands.
That's Tyrone's going to a Packer game. That'll be fun. The Packers game. Week 2? No, week
4.
Week 4, yep.
Week 4, Green Bay. Patriots
game
at Green Bay. Mac, 30 touchdowns, 7 to 10 picks, 38 to 4,100. Yeah, that's pretty similar to right around we were.
30 touchdowns is the threshold we want to see Mac Jones break. Like that's the one you want to see him break, and then you want to see him stay under 10 interceptions so that he's not, you don't want to see him going for 30 and 30 or 30 and 20 like Jameis Winston has done. Like you want to see him going for 30 and somewhere under 10, and hopefully more touchdowns than that and a ton of passing yards. So yeah, that's the thresholds that I want to see him break this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a good spot. Do you have any trust in the scheme, or do you think it'll be a long year? I believe we will win at least 12 games in a playoff game. Wow. I would love if we did that. I will be happy if we win 10 games, I would say. I have a little lower expectations just with the defense. So many question marks on that side of the ball. Like Light Shadows has mentioned on this podcast, the defense is it's a huge question mark. And if that defense can be solid, I think that will open up a lot of things for this team. And maybe that ceiling gets pushed up closer to that 12 game and a playoff win mark instead of that 10 game kind of threshold that we've been talking about.
That would be like best case scenario for me in my mind. So
12 wins and a playoff win. Yeah, that would be great.
If that happens, that's great. I would love that. I would be hard pressed to predict that, because like I mentioned, with injuries and, a lot of other things, I don't know where 12 wins are on the schedule for New England, because a lot of the teams they're not better than. They're better
6-0 in the division, right?
Okay, there you go. And then
that's a good start.
And then all the primetime games we're gonna win. So that's probably 4 more, because the Bills are on a primetime game.
Yeah.
So
that's 10-0.
There we go. Okay. I get it. So no, but I think that would be best case scenario for me.
I would have to agree. I agree with you there. Let's touch on like 1 or 2 more maybe.
Yep.
Outside of Harris and Stevenson, which running backs do you think will be on our roster to begin the regular season? So JJ Taylor seems to be kind of having not as great of a training camp. It kind of looks like. So I would say Ramondre, Damian Harris, obviously, like you just said. The rookies, Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, maybe, and then James White, Ty Montgomery. That would kind of be my prediction. I don't know if there's a guy I forgot in there, maybe, but
yeah, it's interesting. The Patriots last year on their 53-man had Damian Harris, James White, Ramondre Stevenson, JJ Taylor, Brandon Bolden. So 5 guys. Now they had Jakob Johnson. Now figure they're probably not going to have a fullback spot. So is that spot right there going to be the Ty Montgomery spot? Because he's a running back, he's a receiver.
Or Dalton Keene.
Yeah. And then, so they had 3 tight ends too. So you can assume Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. Is it going to be Devin Asiasi like it was last year and Dalton Keene, or does Dalton Keene take that one? How does that work out? And then they had 5 receivers last year. So Jacoby, Kendrick, Nelson were the 3 that are still on the roster, and then Nikhil and Gunner. Well, Devontae Parker's going to be there, and I think Tyquan Thornton's going to be there. And then is there, Ty Montgomery, he's obviously going to make the roster. He can be a receiver. He can be a running back. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how they use not having a fullback anymore, and if they bring a fourth tight end and what running backs they bring. But if I had to go right away, I'm saying Damian Harris, James White, Ramondre Stevenson, Pierre Strong, and then is there one? I don't know if they bring Kevin Harris, maybe practice squad. I don't know. I think that spot's tough too. I don't see a way that they can't bring James White. I don't think that you have to have him on.
That's going to be interesting. If he starts on the PUP list, then then you have an extra roster spot, and that's
how many games out is it if you're on the PUP?
6, I believe.
So
Gilmore was right.
Yeah, true, good point. So if he's going to miss 3 games, do you put him on the 53-man right away and get him back week 4, or do you just put him on the PUP, get that extra roster spot? So that'll be interesting.
He'd have to practice at least once, and then you could put him on IR. I think the IR rules are changing this year, though. Is it still 3 weeks, or I think they up it to 6 or 4? Or,
I'll pull that up right now.
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, I would expect James White. He's got to be on. I mean,
it says the new rule is a player must miss at least 4 games after going on IR before they can return. But teams can now bring back as many as 8 players from IR. So there used to be, I don't remember what it was.
Well, it was, so during the COVID year, it was 3 weeks and unlimited. You could bring back as many players as you want. Before that, it was 2 players a year, and it was a minimum of 8 weeks.
Okay.
I believe.
So a little bit different changes right there. So
which
that'll
is
be
better.
interesting to see.
I love that. That makes it
interesting.
Makes it a lot better. It's just JJ Taylor, like, I don't know. He has his moments where he looks awesome and he's shifty and he's small and he's factoring in on special teams. He's been returning. He's been back there returning kicks. He returned a lot of kicks from when I was watching practice at training camp the other day. So if he's going to end up factoring in there, then he might find his way onto the roster again and have a spot, and maybe he can prove himself in certain situations.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see what they do with Kevin Harris. I mean, obviously another 4th round running back that they took there. If JJ Taylor doesn't make it, then I would expect Kevin Harris to be on there, because then there's your 5 running backs. You got Damian Harris, Kevin Harris, Pierre Strong, Ramondre, James White. If James White is not on the PUP to start, I'd expect Kevin Harris to be there. If both James White and JJ Taylor are on the 53-man week 1, then it'll be interesting to see if they bring Kevin Harris, what they do with him, because he is kind of a high draft pick. I don't want to say high, but a 4th rounder for a running back. We've seen New England do some things with the 4th rounders before. So yeah, that'll be the running back room is really interesting for camp.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of different interesting rooms that we have this year. All right, last one. Thoughts on Duggar in coverage? He's struggled so far in camp in coverage, and I don't know. I haven't heard as much of him struggling in the past few days as I did earlier on, kind of before the pads came on. But even like the first day of pads, I don't believe he had the best day. So we'll see. It's early. Duggar makes an impact every single year. He's a dynamic player, so I think he's going to be fine. It is kind of odd to see him struggling the way he has been so far.
Yeah, and I don't think he's ever been a super good cover corner. He has the athleticism and stuff to do it, but he hasn't shown that elite cover safety type of guy. So that'll be interesting to see how because I think that's the next step. Like, he can play the run, he can run with the best of them, but how does he cover? And he's got the size and the physicality to guard both tight ends. He can play with a smaller receiver if he can get hands on him and can run with him. So I think that's the interesting part about Duggar this year. How does he continue to develop in that role, and can he continue to get better in that? Because if he can, he'll be a complete safety. He'll be great.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Adrian Phillips has kind of been more the coverage guy, and if he can take that step in coverage, that's going to be phenomenal, because he's so good at the line of scrimmage, making tackles sideline to sideline, being a guy who can impact the run game, and a QB spy for the quarterback. We saw how great he was as a Lamar counter. That was kind of his job when we played the Ravens that year. So yeah, Duggar's a great player. I think he'll figure it out. If he can just keep improving in coverage, that's going to be kind of the next step to take for his career.
For sure. So Any more questions here? Michael says James White will not start. I mean, I don't think he's going to start, but there's no way he can't have a role in this team. He'll make it so much easier for Mac Jones. His ability when he's 100% healthy to catch the rock and, make guys miss, and the dynamic playmaking he has in him. Yeah, I don't think he's going to start, and I don't expect him to take a significant amount of carries, but for what he brings to the Patriots' third down offense, if he's healthy, he's got to be on the roster, in my opinion.
I was going to say, if James White is healthy, I don't know what you mean by start. By start, do you mean first down? If that's the case, no, he will not start. But if James White is healthy, I would assume he's our starting third down back, because he's going to be a huge help to Mac Jones and a huge addition to this team if he can get back healthy for the first part of the season.
For sure. Well, guys, again, we appreciate everything. Make sure you use code PATSDRIVE on Underdog Fantasy. Either download the app or go to the website. Stay up to date with all of our content that we're coming out with. Follow us on Instagram, which is in the description or on the screen right now. And then you guys, we appreciate all the support, the comments, the likes, the subscriptions. We're going to continue to do this throughout the season. For those of you that are new, we do this twice a week. We do it usually Wednesday night as a pregame show, and then Sunday night as a postgame show to recap, kind of the game and our thoughts. So we appreciate all the support and everything. And, next time we hope to see you guys back here. So anything else, Cole?
No, I think that should do it. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Tune back in next week. Patriots have a game Thursday, first preseason game. So maybe we'll preview that at some point in the week. And then after that game, we'll discuss that and go live and with you guys. So yeah, like Jay said, we appreciate all the support, and just keep checking the YouTube. We'll be scheduling something once we talk about what day we're going to go live, maybe Tuesday night or something like that. So stay tuned, but we appreciate the support as always, and we will talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.